Like,
Okay.
hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me and Jessica Petelle for Where I'm From, number 59. Here she is. I'm reading, and I've told her before I started, I'm still reading Hysterical by Elizabeth Sist that I'm almost finished with. And I highly recommend it. It's all about how women, this is my pitch, how women's voices are not compared to men's voices, but compared to silence. And so, no matter how we speak or when we speak or what we speak about, it is very annoying to very many people. So, that is not a reason to be silent. It is, in fact, a reason to speak up. So,
So
on that note,
powerful.
I would like to welcome Jessica, who is really stepping outside her comfort zone today to write a poem, read a poem, talk about a poem. And I appreciate that because I think
Thank you.
it's good to push ourselves in a way that is healthy. It's good to push ourselves to do things that are uncomfortable, but not things
Yeah.
that hurt us. So I hope that this is a healthy discomfort for Jess.
This is such a healthy discomfort. And thank you for having me. And I can't believe I'm your 59th
I
guest.
know. How does it
Like, I
happen? It's
remember
amazing.
when you did this, and I was like, oh, she's now my like pressure's off. She's got lots of people, really interesting, unique voices coming in and wanting to be a part of this. Like, she's going to forget about me. No. And I do appreciate having the opportunity because I do feel like this is such a fun exercise. And everybody that I've told about it like has been really interested, and I just think what you've done in the space that you've created is so beautiful.
Oh,
And for me, who I we just recently were on another Zoom for another project that we're collaborating on, and I shared with you that like I had really bad stage fright when
yes.
I
Which
was
I don't feel
in
like I knew, which
college.
was just shocking to me. I didn't think I knew that. I don't
Yeah.
think I knew that. If I did, it
No,
was way back.
I don't think we ever talked about it.
Yeah.
And it's something that it was one of those things where I went from being really comfortable in front of people to then all of a sudden being like, again, like maybe silenced in some way that I didn't even know at the time. And so I really enjoy the opportunity to share, but also I think, you know, it's being vulnerable in front of people, and being you never know, but you always make me feel comfortable, and everyone that you communicate with, because you're just so empathetic and
Oh,
wonderful, and so always fun to talk to. So I'm really happy that you're doing this, and that I'm going to try to get through this, because it's a personal accomplishment.
I think it is for quite a few people. And it's so interesting, to be honest, that people want to do it, but also feel uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
Like I think that's an interesting tension. Like the desire to do something, but also knowing that it's uncomfortable. And I'm grateful for everyone who gets through it. And for a lot of people, I think after
Yeah.
they do it, they feel like, yeah, like I did this thing and like nothing bad happened to me, which I think there's
Yeah.
that which she talks about in this book, this sort of fear of
Yeah.
consequences of saying something truthful, like that someone's going to come. I mean, I've had this experience with my writing, especially at the beginning, that someone's going to come and call you a liar or um, a drama queen or
Yeah.
whatever, or bitch, of course. But
Naturally.
yeah. And then to receive the opposite, oh,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing your story. This really spoke to me. This helped me. It's very healing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's stuff in it, whether, you're sharing a poem, or I know some of the people that you've had share, and I just hear certain things, and it just like, like it's like a warm blanket,
Mm-hmm.
just hearing other people share important moments, and kind of seeing what part of their childhood or where they're from that they choose to
Mm-hmm.
encapsulate. And I think that's something that is so important. And like for me, mine kind of became a bit of a time capsule of my childhood, and almost like a love letter to my mom and my aunt, which I was like, oh, like I didn't realize that was what was going to come out. So,
That's sweet.
it's fun to experience that. And I can't guarantee that I'm not going to cry.
Well, it's a safe space to cry. I just try not to cry because I don't want people to feel like they have to take care of me. Like, oh no, she's crying at my poem, because I've had that situation where you share something and someone
Yeah.
starts crying, and then I feel like, oh, I overdid it,
Yeah.
and I don't want
No, I
anyone to
think.
feel like they've overdone it. No such thing. Um, so are you ready? I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Where I'm from. I am from Sparklers, from Barbie and Bicycle Pom Poms. I am from the neighborhood by the railroad track, abandoned and overgrown, no trains to take me away. I am from lilac bushes and the evergreens, whose needles provided the perfect home for the rhubarb to grow underneath. I am from the record player and dance parties, from Rebecca and Cynthia. I am from laughter and silence on the every anniversary of Grandma's passing. I'm from Isn't She Lovely? And look at those beautiful curls. I am from You're closer to God in the garden than you are in a church. I am from the Big Long Lake, from no bake cookies and rhubarb pie, from the overflowing Christmas tree after my parents' divorce, and the needlepoint made by GAG, her initials. I am from the wonder of what could be far away from here and the comfort in knowing I always have a home with those who love me.
You
I
did
did
it.
it. Okay. Okay, it wasn't that bad.
And you didn't like turn into smoke, like no, like the
No,
bolt of
no, just a
lightning
little
came
bit of
down.
tear. I think it was like, it was warranted.
It's funny, but also true. This like anticipatory anxiety of just saying things.
Saying things. And, I think the interesting thing too is like the how simple it came out. Like the things that I recalled this particular moment that came out of me in this poem was like, a time that like I have clear visions of. I have things that connect to one another, but none of it was like, big fancy words. It was
Yeah.
very much like the childlike, things that you kind of feel and experience. So
I
it's
love that it takes all comers. So, whatever that like it's
yeah,
whatever you've got, it can hold, and that
yeah,
it doesn't need to be impressive, whatever that means,
no,
or serious, whatever. I loved what George Ellis said when I talked to her. Like
yes,
let's reclaim poetry, and it's not about like the meter or the words, or it's not about that. It's about expressing ourselves, and it's a really
yeah,
pure way to express ourselves, poetry.
yeah,
And we've got such distance from it, because I am certainly part of this, thinking that only like really smart people can write poetry, or really talented
right,
people, or really whatever people. And I don't
yeah,
know what that means when I actually deconstruct it. What does that mean?
exactly. Because it's so, I think about like, another poet that I've just really responded to over the years is Rupi Kaur.
Mm-hmm.
And like, oh, just so many things that in her poetry are very simple, but also very complex when go back and read them. And I think that kind of, um, reclaiming poetry is
Mm-hmm.
super powerful because it's such a beautiful format. And this prompt, I think it really is something that like there's so many branches
Mm-hmm.
for, people to be creative and like, as I was writing it, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I could get my mom and my aunts to write
I
their versions,
I would
and
love
like
to get
keep
people who,
going.
if they want to join me, tell them to, because I would love for someone like a sibling who's been on here, or a
Yes.
parent, like, because I think it's really interesting. One of the women who was
Yeah.
on here was like, I'll try to get my brother to do it. I need to remind her, because I think that's because, of course, they would be totally different. I mean, I think there'd be a little
Absolutely.
overlap, of course, because every single poem that's been read here, part of it, I'm like, oh, it resonates with me, like a specific
Mm,
memory, like
yeah.
streamers on the bike, and yours, like that brings back a memory, because I never had those, but thought they were very
Mm,
cool.
yeah.
And would look at them and be like, oh, look at that, like those are like they're very much, I think this prompt is so good at evoking
Yeah.
specific memories, and I am forever reminded how universal specificity is. Like the more specific you get, and the
Yeah.
more you dig in there, the more people identify with it, which feels so
Yeah.
counterintuitive, but it's true.
Well, yeah, and you think about, when I go back to that time period, and obviously, I mentioned my grandma's passing, it's like I had a very specific memory of that. And it would be, and thinking about it, it's like my mom and my aunt were so much young, like they were so young when this happened and they were raising young people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you do kind of have this sense as you kind of reflect of like your parents being people,
Yeah.
like your family members are more than just, your mom, your aunt.
Mm-hmm.
They are people that in the generational cycle that have their own things to deal with. And then they're also trying to raise people. Like, I think I definitely, as I get older, have much more understanding and clarity around that. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful for that.
Me too. And I think also as I heal
Yeah.
more, as I'm able to parent myself,
Yeah.
and I have more space to approach these memories as a grown up,
Yeah.
and not as a kid who's like re-traumatized, or it's like I
Totally.
can see them with more, mm, what's the right word? It's not distance, it's more and it's not clarity. It's more understanding, I think, just more space.
Yeah. More
It's more
space.
things. It's
And
not just
talking
one.
about space, like I don't know about you, but like when I think about my house and my backyard when I was a kid, I thought it was just like the
Mm-hmm.
biggest place ever. And then, recently I took my husband back for a drive in that neighborhood and it's small. This yard that I remember having such distance from to the
Mm-hmm.
garden, from my back door, it's like it's not that big.
Mm-hmm.
And how we as kids, like in our lives, like and when we look at like how big things are, and this poem I think reminded me that even in the small, simple moments, they were big,
Mm-hmm.
when we were kids. And I
We were
think
so
that's
tiny.
like something to just kind of hold on to is like, wherever we're from, where whatever it is that we've experienced, like, it's they're good. Like I hope for everyone.
Well, I think we are so small. I mean,
Yeah.
like literally, when we're
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
And so things do feel, because I grew up on a bay, and so it did really
Mhm.
feel like the world, like
Yeah.
expansive, and that it
Oh yeah.
contained so much. And now when I go back, I'm like, oh, it's nice. I mean, it's pretty and lovely, and but I also
Right.
needed that comfort and that
Yeah.
company and that reminder that like I was okay, and I was not, I don't know, like so much wasn't
Yeah.
resting on my shoulders as it felt,
Absolutely.
as it might
Yeah.
have felt like it did. Um, so
Yeah. No, this has been great. I mean, as I'm like really tapping into more of my creative self. And as a producer, like, it's been amazing, to work and collaborate with so many creatives. But I certainly, I'm kind of stepping into my own and directing and a lot of the work that we're creating and just really trying to, use my voice and find my voice in a completely different way. And it's a great reminder that you're never too old to do that, to
for
start
sure.
over, to find, whatever your path is, and that, it's an everyday thing and not necessarily results oriented all the
For
time.
sure. And I think that's such, I mean, to like make it a little political, it's such a capitalist thought that like, oh, in order for
Yes,
this creativity to be valid, it must generate income or
yes,
recognition, or because
yeah,
I didn't call myself a writer for so long, even though I was writing and doing things and made a movie, and
yeah,
but it was like, well, I'm not getting paid enough to support me.
right,
Oh my God, that's a lot of money, and
yeah,
that's that doesn't, and even the people I know who do, it's not like they necessarily get over their imposter syndrome just because they get a
mm,
check. Like
that's
there's
right,
always a reason. uh we can always think of reasons to discount ourselves.
yeah,
Don't make enough money doing it, not enough people like it, we're too old. Like you saying you're never too old. No, you're never too old. And you and I have joked about this, that like
yeah,
the space between you're too young and you're too old is like what, a week?
yeah, right. It's true. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
you're
so
really
true.
too young for us to listen to this. Oh, you're really kind of old. It's like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I missed the sweet spot. When was that? Nobody sent
What was
me a
I
memo
doing?
that
Yeah,
this was the
exactly.
week when I was the right age for
I
people to
was
listen to
gonna
what I had
say,
to say. I mean, yeah.
yeah,
So there's always
it's so
something
true. Yeah,
that people will say to, like we've talked about moving the goalposts, you know. It's a
yes,
nice way to say they actually don't want to hear what you have to say.
right.
Like,
Yeah,
you know, they're just continually moving them. Oh, if you do this, then we'll listen to you.
yeah.
No, they won't.
No, no. And that's the thing. It's like you have to really, and I think that you talk about this too in some of your writing about like knowing when the writing is ready or not
Oh yeah,
not
yeah,
sharing it too soon.
yeah,
And I thought that was so impactful because it's right. Like, you want to make sure that you're putting out there what you want to
yeah,
put out there. And that's the center. It's not like, well, have I done it like this, or am I enough of this, or too little of that? It's more just like, no, is this what you want people to see? And I
yeah.
think that can it's so empowering, and it's great. And it's just somebody is obviously a huge fan of your writing. Like
I'll try to
it's
breathe that in. That's
yeah.
thank you.
It's empowering to see, like, how vulnerable you can be, when you're writing and when you're in your, creative element.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, as you're holding space for this, type of poetry reading, it's like it's inspiring. So it makes being vulnerable feel worthwhile.
Well, that's good. I mean, that means a lot to me because more than anything, I want it to feel worthwhile and safe. You know, I want it
Hmm.
to feel like, oh, this is what I signed up for. I don't want people to walk away and be like, wow, that was a real whammy. I'm never doing that again. You know, like
Right,
that's
exactly.
no. So
Yeah,
that
for
means a lot
sure.
to me to hear that. So thank you. Do you have any other things you
Yay.
want to share about the process or your before we started recording, you were saying that this was definitely bringing things up where you were like trying to jokingly, you were saying, you know, like not wanting to do it or back out of it. Like, so anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I made it through.
You
So
did.
if you're if you're
You did.
wondering if
And you made it
you
look
can
pretty
do it,
easy. You made it look
uh,
pretty easy.
it was nice. It was good, and I feel so. I don't know why, it's something that it's. I don't know why that it's something that, sharing parts of yourself or me sharing parts of myself feels so vulnerable. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's the exercise and constantly like pushing ourselves within our own bounds to get out of that comfort zone, because if we just live in our comfort zone all the time, like, are we growing?
Right.
And that's something that personally I've been thinking about a lot. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that resonates with people, but it's something that I'm like, even little steps
Mm-hmm.
for me,
I think
when I'm
especially little steps. I think
yeah,
lots of times we
yeah,
become paralyzed considering a big step.
yeah.
Or like you sent me that joking thing like about vision boards. Like if it says like whatever, $10 million or beach house, like that is very unattainable.
Right,
What does that
right,
even mean? You know?
right.
But like what are the smaller, so I don't have a vision board, full disclosure. Like my vision board is be happy, you know, continue to grow. Like I know myself well enough to know that if I have specifics, I get too wrapped up in them and I get too
Yeah,
goal oriented and I kind of lose sight of the larger picture. So
absolutely.
specific goals are not my jam. I'm more of like a general, am I happy with my life? Do I feel like I'm taking care
Yeah,
of myself? You know,
yeah,
those kinds of things. Because in the end, it is truly more important to me at this stage in my life that I am taking care of myself and listening to
yes,
myself than that I'm publishing something or creating something or being a perfect mom or whatever. Because those things don't
yeah.
really support me
No, and
or
I
the people
think,
I love, you know.
yeah, and I think, I mean, speaking from myself, like COVID was like a huge,
Yeah.
gut punch. I don't think I'm alone in that, but I do think, like, there has been a lot about this particular time period where, I'm holding space for myself to kind of shift, and realize that it's okay to, take a bit more time, to have a little bit of,
Yeah.
space, and to know that like the things that I wanted prior to that, there's a line that has been created, and you can always change what you want
Yeah.
in life, and you don't owe anybody an explanation.
I know.
And that is a really powerful, tool. And being able to say, you know, I want to make sure that I'm just being true to myself, and I'm,
Mhm.
getting out of my comfort zone, and I'm doing those little steps forward. And, it's not necessarily a vision board. It's just me committing to like,
No shade on vision
drawing on.
boards.
No,
I just
no, I
know
mean, it
myself
works
well
for
enough
some people.
to know that I
And
would be like, oh, well, I haven't done this shit on my vision board. Like I'm
no,
a failure.
totally.
So I just can't even
I've
engage.
been journaling. My tool has been
Yeah.
like to add a little bit of journaling. And actually I've had an exercise of like 2 minutes. Literally set 2 minutes on my, if I feel like I don't have time to journal,
Mm-hmm.
it's setting 2 minutes on my
Mm-hmm.
clock and journaling for 2 minutes, and then being satisfied with that being enough.
Yep.
And I think that's the
Yep.
thing. It's like, well, I just did 2 minutes today. No, I did 2 minutes. I journaled, like, with
Exactly.
a
I did
star
it.
on my chart.
Exactly. Yeah. I think
And that I think is good.
it's so important to have really
Yeah.
attainable things. I'm so into attainable goals because they you feel better, and it's
Yeah.
amazing how much writing you can get done in 2 minutes or 6 minutes or 10 minutes. Like it does not need to be a full day journey of the soul.
Mm-mm.
Like you can just set
Yeah.
aside what time you have. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's so good for you because also in this book,
Yay.
Hysterical, she talks
I'm
about
going to get it. I'm going to get it.
expressive writing and how it helps health outcomes and how holding in our
Mm.
rage and our sadness and not expressing it is not good for us, and actually has a study that talks about it. So it's not just woo woo touchy feely. There's actually data about it, and I also felt it very validated by it because in the
Yeah.
end I write for myself. Like
Mm.
it's nice
Yes.
other people enjoy it. It is. I'm not lying. Like
Yeah.
making the transition or doing both screenwriting and essay writing has been very good for me because
And
there is
comic book writing.
comic book writing and poetry, right? What all these
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah.
And it has been good for my soul because just writing
Hmm.
screenplays that people like, but then just nothing,
Right. Yeah.
it's hard on your soul. And so it is
Yeah.
nice to share things with the world. So that
Hmm.
is important. But like the writing is for me, like first and
Right.
foremost. And
Yeah.
to see data like, oh, it's also good for me. That's nice. It's good for my health.
Exactly.
I like that because
Yeah, absolutely.
I like to multitask. I'm not gonna,
It's self-care,
yeah, that's right.
which
That's
is an
right.
important thing. Like,
Yeah.
which for some reason at a certain point, self-care became something that maybe
Mhm.
sounds like grand, and we shouldn't be like, doing, or, we shouldn't have, if we have time for it. But self-care is so about like taking care of our mental, physical, spiritual well-being, and,
Yes.
spending a few minutes and writing down your thoughts so that they don't, you know,
Mhm.
consume you, or just like whatever it is you need to say is important.
I
And
agree. I
yeah,
so
we're
agree. Whatever you need to say is important.
yeah,
And it's revolutionary. And we're
yes,
always like, what do we do about the world? What do we do?
yeah,
Say something,
yes,
you know, something true
yeah,
about
absolutely.
yourself. I think that's revolutionary. And it feels so simple,
Hmm.
but it's not
Yeah.
always easy.
Mm.
So I can't imagine a better goodbye than that. So unless you have any
See you
other
later.
thoughts,
No, I'm gonna go journal.
exactly, come back with a sequel. Okay. Thank
No,
you
thank
for
you for
joining me.
having me. This was so nice.
This was a joy. Thank you.
All
Bye,
right,
everyone.
bye.